For today, we're reviewing for the test. When you have choices, multiply. I'd like you to write this out. I'm going to make it very brief little notes. Choices is your hint to multiply. This is kind of like my cheat sheet for right before the test. If they give you a bunch of choices, you're supposed to multiply. Cell phone goes in the backpack. Please don't have it up during class. During the last 10 minutes, it's no problem. Can't leave it in your lap though, that's not an option. Okay, next up, choices, multiply, right? So let me give you an example. I am, for instance, wearing a shirt. I had several to choose from. Let's say I had 10 in my closet. And I have 4 different kinds of pants that I generally like. I got others, but so 10 and a 4. How many outfits can I make? What do you do with choices? Say it. Multiply. So you get 10 times 4 is 40. So I'll give you another one that it involves choices of a spot on a license plate. This is a really typical question on a test. Let's say these 3 are letters and these 2 are numbers. Numbers, letters. Make yourself that little picture right there. And how many choices do you have for all the letters spots? How many choices of letter are there? If you're going to put a letter on a license plate, how many choices are there? Yes? 10. 10 is the numbers. You think of the numbers. Letters. How many letters? Thank you for trying. Yes? 26. There we go. So it's 26 times, and I want to make one example for you where it goes down. Why would it go down? You have less choices each time? Why would that make any sense? Yes? If you can't repeat a letter. So do you get, if we already picked A, then you don't have 26 choices anymore? You'd have to pick a different letter? Now you're down to 25. All right. And then if you needed numbers, that's the one where somebody said 10. Yes, there are 10 choices of number. And what if I made it 9? That would mean I have less choices. Why would I have less choices on the second number? Because what if you couldn't repeat the numbers? So like you already picked a number and you can't repeat numbers. All right, so that's the choices kind of problems. The next kind, union. And that goes with what small word? You guys, I'm glad we have an extra day to prepare for this test. Or. If they say or, that's what the union symbol means. Or. Okay, next one. This symbol, the short little word is and. And the official word is intersection. Intersection has 2 N's in it, so it kind of looks like an N, you know, A-N-D, and it's an upside down U, technically. All right, what is intersection? If you have 2 roads, it's where they cross. Okay, and if you're on both roads, you're in the intersection. Okay, another little thing for our review cheat sheet, so to speak, is that probability is what you want over what's possible. Every single probability question always comes down to what do you want? Put that on top. All the things that are possible, they go on the bottom. It's what you want over what's possible. All right? So if I have a die, like, you know, dice, except 1. I have a die. How many things are possible? 6. Typically, you only get 1 number that you're really trying for. Like, oh, I hope I get a 4. You roll it, and dang, I didn't get a 4. What were the probability I was going to get a 4? The probability I was going to get a 4, well, there was only 1 thing I would win with, and there was 6 things that I wouldn't. So it was a 1 and 6. So that's pretty typical. All right, next. The kind where you have a shaded region. Draw one of these. Draw this. And it's either what you want over what's possible, which would be like, oh, I want to hit the circle. Out of what's possible is the whole thing, the bigger thing. Or it's the bigger minus the smaller, all over the total. And the total is the bigger one, really. So I guess I can say big minus small over big. So if I wanted to find this shaded region right here, that's the hardest kind, I would take the area of the bigger thing, which is the rectangle, minus the circle, big minus small, and I divide it by the big, which is everything, the possible is the biggest thing. These are always the biggest numbers you can get, the bottom, what's possible. Okay, so there's like a review that's supposed to cover everything that you're supposed to know to be able to answer this probability review worksheet. That first one, it looks like you have a whole bunch of choices. What do you do with choices? Say it. Multiply. Good. Then they have the license plate. Ooh, we just already practiced that. It's kind of like this. Except sometimes you can repeat them and sometimes you can't. All right, want to know what I think the hardest question on the whole test could be? Venn diagram, like we just did yesterday. Like making a Venn diagram. Everybody find this. It's in the notes. I think it's the second page. When they said 36 like blue, a lot of kids go, oh, 36. No, that's not where the 36 goes. All of them together add up to 36. So everybody put a 36 after the blue. That means all 4 of those little spots add up to 36. 38 like white, put a 38 right underneath the word white. 40 liked red, put a 40 by the red. You can't put them into the drawing yet. 15 liked red and blue. Together, that makes 15. I still haven't put a single number inside yet. The only one you can really trust is the middle one. 5 like red, white, and blue. 5 goes here. And then you start going, oh, so now that, you know that one that added up to 15? This must be 5 and 10. And then you remember this one that adds up to 36? Well, these two together, at least I know together, they must add up to like 11 or something like that. Or 21, actually. So then you just have to use logic to try to keep going on that problem. So that's a good start, at least. So we got the first 2 spots filled in for you. And remember, there were 73 students surveyed. In my opinion, put the 73 here. Right here. All right. Next, don't forget the left out spot. This spot here where it's not blue, not white, and not red. Some kids aren't going to like any of those colors. The grand total has to add up to 73. So usually you end up figuring this one out because you're like, oh, I've got all the other numbers. It must add up to 73. By logic, I can subtract and get that last number. And that is a brief review of everything you need to know. But it was pretty brief. So this is the part where I'm going to let people ask me questions in class, and I welcome you to ask lots of questions before we take this test. And then near the end of the hour, I'm going to run you through one last set of practice problems, okay? So we're going to have that big period of time right now where everybody can work on this worksheet, getting ready for tomorrow's test. And then near the end of the hour, I'll ask you some closing questions to kind of like point you in the right direction on what to study. Okay? So work on the worksheet, ask me questions, get ready for this test. And I'm going to pause the video for now. I'm going to strongly recommend you set those other worksheets and quizzes aside. They don't have a time limit on them, you know, like you just have to get them in by tomorrow. What I'm about to share with you is the questions that I am most concerned about for tomorrow. So these are going to be the toughest probability ones that I think you might struggle with. All right, so imagine for a minute there's 20 of you out there right now in the classroom. So write down the number 20. Okay, let's say we were going to pick a president and a vice president and the secretary. You know, like we do for StudGov? Okay? Remember, this is choices. How many choices do we have for president? Don't overthink this. There's 20 of you. It could be 20 different people. It could be the president, right? But think about it. Let's say we're going to do vice president. Why is it different? It's not 20 now. Because somebody's going to be the president and they can't also be the vice president. See what I mean? So it's not 20 times 20. What's the next number? 19. Does that make sense to you? All right. Then how many people could be secretary? Well, you could say 20, but you can't because we've already chosen 2 separate people that were these jobs. So do you get the idea? So be careful that you don't just go 20 times 20 times 20. You multiply choices, yes, but you can't be more than one thing at once. And when it comes to those type of jobs anyways. All right, next thing. Here's a probability Venn diagram. Let's say this is cows. My daughter likes cows, and my daughter likes the color purple. So she would have been in here. Okay, so let's say there's 8 people in here, 2 in here, 1 in here, and 3 out here who don't like cows and don't like the color purple. All right, what if I did probability I get a kid who's cow union purple? Those symbols are really important to know. Does this mean a big answer or a small answer? Union. I tried to teach you to remember that it was like a little or right here. And are ors big answers or small answers? It's a small word, big answer. This is a big answer. So if you're like, does that mean the 8? No, it does not mean the 8. It's a big answer. How many of you knew it was all 3 of these? Good. Then what's probability of C intersect P? What's that mean? Intersection. Ever heard of an intersection? It's like this. It'd be the 8. Raise your hand if you knew it was going to be the 8. Okay. Intersect. This would be 8. 8 out of what? Well, it depends on how many people we pulled. In this case, I have 14, so I'd say out of 14. All right. Is that going to be a big or a small answer? Is that going to be a big or a small answer? Everybody figure out if they think the top one is the big answer or is the bottom one the big answer. On their graphs, this one is the one that's an or, which is a small word, big answer. Who knew this was going to be the big one? Good. And then last, the intersect. That's like where 2 roads intersect. Is there a lot of people in an intersection compared to all the roads? No, the intersection is very small compared to the whole length of all the roads. This is a small. It's where they intersect. Okay. Let's see. I'm pretty sure you're good at areas, but I guess I'm not positive. Just to make sure you know how to find an area. Let's say this is 8, and let's say this is 6. Can you find the area of that triangle for me? If you said 6 times 8 is 48, that was a good start, but it's not right. Yes? 24 is correct. What if that's out of a much bigger thing that's 10 by 12? If I want the area of this, it would be 24 out of 10 times 12. What if I want the blue shaded area? Then you'd take the bigger area, 10 times 12, subtract the 24, and that gets you the blue area. That's what you want. Over what was possible? 10 times 12. This was the bigger area minus the small, all over the big area. That's the hardest kind there, where they shade around the shape. So would you guys all figure out that answer for me for this problem? The blue shaded area. I kind of told you how to do it, but I didn't actually get you the answer. Did you guys get 96 out of? The whole thing is the big one is 10 times 12 is 120. Raise your hand if you had 96 out of 120. Then you're doing it right. Okay. I hope you practiced with me there. I think some of you were with me. And that's good practice for the test tomorrow. The only kind we haven't really talked about is tables. So I'm going to make a simple one. This is your handedness. Are you left-handed or right-handed? Raise your hand if you are left-handed. All right, I only have 3 lefties. And if you like, if you would choose Italian food or Chinese food. All right. Who is a left-handed person and would pick Italian? Who is a left-handed person would pick Chinese? All right. Who is a right-handed person and would pick Italian food? 1, 2, 3, 4. And who is a right-handed person would pick Chinese food? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Then I could total them up, and this would be 4, and this would be 16. And that makes 20 people total. 4 and 13 is 17 and 3. There's a real-life chart of our class. Now, what's the probability that I grab a random kid and they like Chinese food? Everybody figure out what you think the answer is? I pick a random kid and they happen to like Chinese. Why am I not going to use this? Because that's only lefties. I'm going to use this out of 20. 16 out of 20. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Awesome. What if I said the probability that a random kid is a lefty? A randomly chosen kid is a left-handed person. Somebody volunteer for this one. Probability that I get a lefty if I pick out of this group. Stella. 3 out of 20. Then what's the probability I don't get a left-handed person? You subtract it from 1. And it would be 17 out of 20. If the probability of rain tomorrow is 10%, you subtract it 1 from 1 and then you get 90% chance? It's not going to rain? All right. Okay. There. I think that was a good review. I think you'll be ready for the test tomorrow. What happens if you got 2 kids? One of them spends an extra half hour tonight being really sure they got this down. And another kid just stops right here, doesn't do anything else. I think you know the difference. This first kid who studies is probably going to do better. But here's what I want to convince you. It takes almost 3 hours to do the retake process. Because some of you are like, well, if I do bad, I'll just retake it. It's 3 hours. Know why? Because the first one, it's not a whole hour, but the first thing you got to do is you got to take your test. You got to fix all of them that you got wrong on paper. And to do that, you're going to probably have to come in the morning sometime. That's going to take you some time because you got to get in up early too. That sucks. Next thing is to retake a test. Then you have to actually take the other test. And then, of course, you probably have to study for it then. If you just study tonight a little bit, prevents the 3 hours process of retaking. So strongly recommend do some studying tonight. That's all I got for the video for today.